let's take a look at using a speed strip to reload a snub-nose revolver. Now, a lot of you guys own revolvers, and very few of you guys actually know how to use them. Don't take it as offensive, it's just a fact. Most firearms trainers nowadays are military or police or whatever, and they haven't touched a revolver in God knows how long. So, one of the challenges with carrying a revolver is having spare ammunition on you. And the next challenge is, even if you have spare ammunition on you, it's very dexterity intensive and technique intensive to be able to use it. Revolvers are great. They're really appealing to the masses because they're simple, they're durable, they're reliable, they're cost effective, they're accurate, all those good things. The problem is, as I tell a lot of my students, they're easy to learn and they're difficult to master. In fact, this right here, the ubiquitous 38 caliber snub-nose revolver, is by far, as far as I'm concerned, the most difficult gun to master. Now, master, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, running it like you were born with it, running it like it's a part of you. I mean, let this thing sew like a sewing machine, hum like a bird. I don't know. Just be able to use this to its full potential takes a lot of technique, it takes a lot of practice, it takes a lot of discipline, because frankly, it hurts your hand when you shoot it. Okay, there, I said it. All right, anyways, let's talk about the reload. Before we get into the actual reload technique, let's look at the Speed Strip, made by Bianchi. You can have these online. They're not very expensive. I think it's like 12 bucks for 2 of them. They're made out of a soft, pliable rubber material, and they hold 6 rounds. Now, I don't know many people who carry full-size 6-shot revolvers anymore. So really, as far as I'm concerned, this is something I would use for snub-nose revolvers and as a backup gun, or a beach day gun, you know, something summer carry, something when you don't really want to have the bulk of one of these in your pants. All right, so how you use it, you just, that's what it looks like on the inside, and you just kind of snap your rounds in. Now, I learned this principle from Masada Yu, who actually advocated setting it up with all your 5 rounds in front. And I'll show you his method. Masada Yu is an advocate for doing this with your 5 shots and putting this in your strong side pocket, which I agree with. Now, the idea is you have some tail of it to grab onto as it comes out of your pocket. You're welcome to try this, and you use what's called a scalpel hold as you're reloading. All right, so using this dexterity intensive technique requires a dexterity intensive hold. If it's good enough for surgeons, good enough for me. Now, what I prefer is to take the last round and I set it up at the end, because when this thing is in my pocket, step back a little bit, when this thing is in my pocket, it gives me a handle to lift up on the speed strip. All right, so you see how my hand closes around it? I'll take my middle finger and I'll wrap my middle finger in that space. Now, obviously there's some drawbacks, but I'll get there in a bit, in a little bit. So the idea with this reload, all right, this gun's empty, okay? Going in a safe direction. As I run dry, open, up, and slap. Grip with my left hand, comes down to the belly button. Meanwhile, my right hand finds the speed loader. Now we're beginning the technique. As the speed strip comes out, I'm going to take 2 rounds and tear it off. And rotate the cylinder 2 rounds and tear it off. And then this is what I would prefer to do. And this is how I normally train. Goes right on the ground. Hand comes onto the gun. You'll notice there's 4 shots on a 5-shot gun. And we're back on target. So let me unload this thing, and I'll show you that again. You're gonna say, but, you still had 1 round. Yes, but let's also talk about assumptions. If you're using your backup revolver, if you're using your tiny snub-nose revolver, you're already in a pretty decently bad situation. If you have to reload your revolver, you're in a really bad situation. What that means is time is of the essence. I need to be getting away from there and being out of that situation. And the only time I'm reloading is if I can't get out of that situation. So I'm reloading if, number one, it's a police officer, it's my duty to be here. I can't run away from this fight. I got buddies that are in this fight. I have innocents that I need to protect in this fight. If you are a concealed carry holder, now you have family here, you have wife, spouse, kids, whoever that you need to protect, that you have to be here rather than running away. That's when you're reloading this little snub-nose revolver, so that's bad, and that means time is of the essence. Yes, it's a 5-shot gun, but think about this. For the first motion, I get 2 rounds. That's a gross motor function, as gross as I can make it. As gross of a dexterity function I can make, 2 rounds and tear. Now, if time permits, I can turn this thing around, line 1 round up and get an extra round out of it. But think about it, I have to make an extra motion to turn it and an extra careful motion to line the last shot up to get it in the cylinder. So I have to do more work, but I only get half the benefit, which is only 1 round. In that sense, you already know this revolver has a really low ammunition capacity. So live with it, deal with it. If you're gonna choose to carry a snub, accept that reloading it is difficult, reloading it is slow and dexterity intensive, and it doesn't carry much ammo. So act accordingly. If you have to reload it, time is of the essence. One time with 2 rounds, another 2 rounds, and chuck that last one on the ground and just go for it, right? Because then you have an 80% ammunition capacity, you got 4 out of 5 shots, go with what you have, and if you bang, bang, click, bang, bang, that's fine. No big deal, you just go right through it. All right, you want to take a look at it one more time? All right, let's show the technique. I set it up on the end, skip 1. I lay out my 4 rounds. Give you a better view here. This goes in my strong side pocket with the bullet tips facing back. Just like that. Set this up, it's down there, it's flat. Gun runs empty. Open. Thumb on top of the hammer gets out of the way. Using the meat of my palm right here, make 1 sharp slap. That's it, just 1 time. Boom, all the cases come out. I'm going to take my fist, wrap my fist around the cylinder, and cradle the frame holding the cylinder open. Right hand drives down into my pocket, out comes the scalpel hold, 2 rounds and tear, rotate, 2 rounds and tear, speed strip goes on the ground, gun comes up, fingers on the trigger at that point. Okay. Now, let's take a look at it left-handed. If you're shopping for a pistol instructor, ask your pistol instructor, how do I reload this revolver left-handed? And if he scratches his head, fire that pistol instructor. It's not the person you want to look for, because that means that he's training for himself rather than training for the benefit of his students. The thing about this, I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute. The thing about this is, my job as an instructor is not to teach me how to shoot. My job is to teach you how to shoot. And if you, there's many of you, there's a million of you, there's billions of you out there. And the thing is, every person is going to be a little bit different. So my job is to understand what works in your case rather than what works in my case. Anyways, I'm off my soapbox. If you hire a pistol instructor, ask him, how do you reload this revolver left-handed? If he can't give you an answer, he's gone. Left-handed, here goes. There, I fired my last shot. Finger comes off the trigger. Roll my thumb over. We're going to do a technique called crossing T's. See it? I'm going to roll my thumb over and take my thumb, right hand push in on the cylinder. My left thumb is going to push forward on the cylinder release. Okay, this is called crossing T's. Push and push, gross motor function. Now, once I've crossed T's, I'm going to take my right hand and just close it. As I close my right hand, I'm securing the frame and the cylinder open in my fist. Okay, fingers drop things, hands hold things. Do I want to be holding this thing in my fingers? I want to be holding it in my hand. Okay. Take my whole fist, turn it straight up to the sky. Same exact motion as before. My left palm comes up to the ejector rod, 1 sharp slap. What you don't want to do is sit here and pump it 2 or 3 times. Number 1, that's redundant motion. The second thing is, as you pump it, especially if you're stressed and you pump it quickly, you might catch a shell underneath the extractor. I'll show you what I mean. If you catch a shell underneath the extractor, I don't know if I can demonstrate it here. You see where it's supposed to catch the rim? If you pump it twice and you have a spent shell, this spent shell can get on the wrong side of the extractor star. And if it gets caught down there, that is called the death jam. There is no way out of it without using a tool or even getting your keys or something to dig it out. That is when you die. So better off to just learn a good technique. When you reload this thing, straight up to the sky, use gravity as your friend, 1 sharp slap and just pump it 1 time. That kicks everything out, gets it going with enough velocity to clear even dirty chambers. Now you take the whole thing and rotate it down to your belly button. Once you rotate it to your belly button, the left hand, the dexterous hand, if your dexterity hand is your left hand, right, come get your speed loader. 2 rounds and tear. Take my thumb, I'm going to rotate the cylinder, 2 rounds and tear. Speed strip goes on the ground, dominant hand goes on the gun, and we're back up in business. Any questions?